Hey guys, it's Rich from Predator BP, and on today's video I want to discuss with you an observation that I've made over the past couple of weeks with some of my ball pythons. Now this video here might help you to spot some signs with your snakes of why they stopped feeding, and it might help you to spot some breeding signs too. So we're going to talk about that as well. But what I've noticed in the past few weeks stroke month, since we've got into the cooler temperatures, the summer's now disappeared and the winter is very much here in the UK. All right, we're sitting on what I think it's the 8th of December today, and some of my snakes have just stopped feeding, and it's a group of snakes, so we're going to talk about that. Now, it's not the hatchlings, all right? The hatchlings from my clutches, they've just started getting feeding and they're all really looking for food all the time. I'm assist feeding a couple of those snakes. I'm going to do a video hopefully this week on assist feeding and show you the ones that I am. Now the sub-adults, or the grown-ons, shall we call them actually, the ones all sitting in a smaller rack just down here, not in the bigger rack, they're all currently feeding. Now this boy right here, he is one of my breeder males. This is the Batman, who's het for Desert Ghost, and he is still feeding like a champion at the moment, every single week, even though he is locking to a couple of females. So far he's gone to the Enchi Cypress Het Cryptic, and he's gone to the Enchi Yellow Belly Clown female. And you know, we're hoping to get the Batman combo into Cypress and produce some Kryptons, and try and get Enchi and Yellow Belly into Batman too. I mean, look at this guy's patterns. Just amazing, right? So, we've just talked about the ones that are still feeding. Let's go and look through the adult rack now and talk about the ones that aren't. So we're going to start off on the bottom of the rack and work our way up. So this is my cinnamon pied Atlas. You probably saw on a previous video that I did last week. She's a nice big girl. And one thing to note, all these snakes, I was feeding them Maltese, African soft-furred rats. And I switched over to rats to just try rats for a while, and you get kind of a bit more value for money with them. So they have started to take larger prey, which could be another factor here for why, you know, they're suddenly stopping if it accelerates their growth. But this is the cinnamon pied Atlas, as I said, and she has switched off food just recently. She was taking food. She was taking a rat, and now she's just not fussed at all. As you can see, she's on the warm spot over there, and that's where she's spending most of her time. We'll have a quick look at her while we can. Look at those amazing cinnamon colours on the head. As you know, cinnamon in pied, it tends to take a lot of the pattern away. So that's the first girl in the bottom of the rack, the cinnamon pied, and yeah, she's switched off food, but she's not showing me any other signs of why she switched off food. Okay, we're going to go over now to the Firefly Desert Ghost male. Now, he has not been put into breed with anyone yet, and I'm still umming and ahhing about whether he is going to. And he has been feeding like an absolute champ, taking down small rats, and I get the feeling he wants to breed. He's only just stopped feeding literally last week, which could be that, you know, he just wasn't hungry at that point. We'll see this week whether he feeds. But yeah, he missed a feed last week, but other than that, he's been feeding really well. Look at Fire Pastel and what it does with Desert Ghost. But with him, and I'm in an ahhing, I'm thinking about putting him to the cinnamon pied and putting him to the clown to try and create some double hets to get the Desert Ghost project going. But I'm not sure whether I want to do that, or whether I would just want to go out and buy snakes with the hets already in them and save some time. And with double het projects, obviously you need plenty of room, because you're going to have quite a few holdbacks, and then you're going to have to raise them on and up, and you know, it's going to take 2 to 3 years before you even get there. So I'm really not sure what I'm going to do there. Or I could just buy a nice female for him that's het for Desert Ghost with some other genes in to get things rocking and rolling. But yeah, he's the second one up in the rack, and he's only just stopped feeding as a male. But males can go off food during the breeding season, or like the Batman we discussed earlier on, can just continue to feed all the way through. Okay, up next, and I talked about this snake earlier. This is the Cypress Enchi Het Cryptic, who is going to the Batman at the moment. She has been feeding every single week currently, and she's still feeding. I'm watching for breeding signs with her. You know, she usually lays in December, so I don't think it's going to happen because we are obviously, you know, we're in December and I've not seen any ovulation or her going off food or anything like that, and I would have seen those signs by now. So I don't think she's going to go unless she's going to go later than her usual schedule. But this is information obviously I got from the breeder where I got her from, so I don't know how accurate that is. Like she's, you know, we brought her in this year, so she's never been bred by me, but she is astonishing. And yeah, she's still feeding and she's locking up with the male, so we'll see what goes on there. So I apologise if this is creeping deaf, guys, just going through all the snakes here and talking about who's feeding and who's not. I will get to the point, but I just want to kind of document this. So as you know, this is the Pied Het Burgundy Albino who was on the last video. She's a big girl, always likes her food. She's not been with us that long, but she is feeding. She's currently feeding. She lays in about June in the year, so I wouldn't expect her to go off just yet. She's certainly not gone off because of winter changes or even the move, you know, from coming over from Joe Tully to me. She started feeding relatively within a week, but she's always liked her food. I know the history of this girl. She's just a consistent feeder, but we'll see what happens as time goes on, and once she starts locking to the male she's going to, and we'll see what happens there. But yeah, she's absolutely astonishing, as you can see. And again, just on the hot spot, you know, it's during the day and she is just keeping herself warm. Okay, so far what we've observed is mainly the cinnamon pied has gone off food. Big adult female. This is another big adult female. This is the Enchi Yellow Belly Clown, and she has had one lock to the Batman. She's currently in blue, but she's gone off food recently, and it took me a while to get this female to feed when she came over to me. I can't even remember when, April, May, June, was it around June time, something like that. It took me a few months to get her feeding, and she's been ravenously feeding ever since until probably about 4 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago-ish, and she has stopped feeding. So just like the cinnamon pied, adult female, and she stopped breeding and she's just curling up on that hot spot there. And she again lays around the middle of the year, around June-ish, so I wouldn't expect it to be for breeding reasons yet. We're, you know, way ahead of that. But I feel like maybe the winter temps have got something to do with it, and the fact that, you know, she's had enough food and she feels kind of content with it. But yeah, she's in blue at the moment, so it'll be awesome once she sheds, shows she's been growing. So she's looking quite dull. But yeah, so that's note number 2. Another adult female that's just switched off food. No other signs. Okay, right, one more adult female before we get to the snake that is actually showing me other signs of why she's stopped feeding. Now this is my adult clown, and she is currently still feeding really well. In fact, the other week she took 2 small rats because I had one left over where the others had stopped feeding. I needed to give it to somebody, so she took it when she'd already taken, I think, the day before or the day before that. And yeah, again, no other signs with her, but she is sort of in the middle of her tub. But I wouldn't expect to be seeing her to go just yet. So she could be showing me other signs, but she's currently still feeding and hasn't switched off. So far we've seen the cinnamon pied who has switched off, and we've seen the Enchi Yellow Belly Clown who has switched off. But now we're going to get to the snake that is actually showing me why they potentially had switched off food. So we're now moving on to the snake that really is showing me why, guys. And really the point of this video is to do with this snake in particular. And this is the Mojave. You'll see her here. She's 100% het for Ultramel. Now, you remember me talking on my last video about this project. I decided to go ahead with it because this female was feeding really well, and then she stopped feeding. And then I started to notice that she was cooling. So she was up here, near the water bowl, near the cooler end of the tub. So to me, I was seeing signs there that she is getting ready to go. That's what I think I'm seeing. Now I then took the pastel yellow belly pied, who's het for burgundy albino, so it's compatible with Ultramel, so we can produce visuals. I thought I'd put him in and see what happens, and they locked literally within an hour or so. They've been locked for 2 days. It looks like they finished locking here, so I am gonna, let's just have a little gentle look. But yeah, you see tails? See tails? Yeah, tails are no longer entwined. It's time to take him out and give him a rest and leave this female alone too. But they started to breed. They started to lock and they started to breed, and that really showed me that the reason she switched off food is because she's cooling those follicles. Those follicles are growing with inside her, and she is ready to go. Now she's had a lock to the male. Now it will be interesting to see if she then starts ravenously feeding again for a short spurt before she actually ovulates and everything else. That's what I want to note next. But this 100% for me, I've seen this before, is showing me why she stopped feeding. As the other two, I don't really know why. I think the winter had something to do with it, or maybe where I've switched them over to rats, they just feel like they've had enough food for now and they want to take a bit of a break from it. But this female in particular has shown me the breeding signs, and I love it when it works like this because she shows me that she's ready. I've put the male in and he's locked to her straight away. And I'm really looking forward to this project, guys, to produce potentially Ultramel pieds with pastel and yellow belly and Mojave in. It will be incredible. And obviously there'll be visuals, but we won't know whether they're burgundy albino visuals or whether they're Ultramel visuals. But I mean, they're more or less the same gene, just different lines of that gene. So it's incredible for me. Double recessive project there with Mojave, with pastel, with yellow belly. Really, really excited about this one. Really looking forward to it. But there we go, guys. So this was the whole point of this video, was to show you this female and really show you why she'd stop feeding, then seeing the cooling, then putting the male in, them locking, and really just establishing that she was ready to go. So based on those observations, guys, I think it can paint a bit of a picture, and here's my theory. Obviously, we've just discussed the typical reason why a female, an adult female, might start going off food and then show you other breeding signs to suggest that she's ready to go and actually she wants to start breeding. And I think once you start locking them, you might see them start to ravenously feed again. But obviously they're growing follicles, so they're running out of less room in there. The other thing is they're a little bit more distracted too. They start cooling a bit more. And when they're cooling, you know, they're trying to grow those follicles, and I feel that they're a bit distracted. The other thing for me is just the fact that the winter really affects temperatures, and it makes perfect sense. Their metabolism, their body functions, everything is driven by heat, hence why they need heat. And obviously in our setups, I mean, it depends what type of setup you've got. If you're in the tropics, obviously you're not going to feel this at all. If you've got a dedicated snake room, you know, and you're not just somebody keeping these animals in a bedroom, or, you know, a room in your house that's used for other things, you know, you can probably maintain the temperatures all year round and there won't really be much of a drop. But certainly in this room there is, and it can be felt by the animals. So I think it can drive that response in the adults who are well established. They've been feeding really well, to just start not being so hungry, not being so driven in the metabolism to keep feeding. But most certainly breeding is quite a sign of it. So hopefully this kind of helps people that are coming in and want to do a little bit of hobbyist breeding, want to start spotting the signs, you know, because a female going off food and then starting to do cooling are two very big signs that she's ready. And as I discussed earlier, once you put that male in there, if you almost see an instant lock, you kind of know you're onto it. This is the right time for the female. Like, the females will tell you when they're ready. But say you're not doing any breeding and actually you're just keeping these animals and you've got some adults and then they're suddenly starting to switch off. This might give you a couple of reasons why they're switching off, and it's best not to worry about it, okay? If your animal's healthy and it's in good condition, don't worry, they can last a long time without food, and it could be a seasonal thing. As always, always go back to basics if you're ever in doubt. Check your temperatures, check your humidity, make sure your setup's correct, make sure there are no signs of any health issues, and then after that, stop worrying about it. Let the snake do its thing, and the snake will teach you, you know, what's going on in the end through observations, through watching them. You'll learn a lot, like I learned from these guys just by watching them when the females are ready. I love seeing that rather than trying to force breeding to happen. You know, you just stick the male in there before you've really seen any signs. But sticking the male in there once you've seen signs, it just feels so much more right, you know, and I feel like I have more success that way. It's what I noticed in the 2 clutches I've already had with those females. I noticed those signs, and almost those 2 females with the Leopard Pastavi and the Spider Doublehet Hypo Clown who had those clutches, that they were in sync with each other almost, which was pretty incredible. I mean, they're amazing animals, right? And they teach you so much. But look, that's enough from me today. I hope you're all doing really well. Thanks again for joining me in this video, and I'll see you Friday, and hopefully I'll show you a video on how I assist feed. I've really got the knack of this now, and it gives you some great, you know, feeling of success when they start assist feeding really easily, but then more importantly when they just start feeding by themselves. It's really strange how you can have a number of snakes that just all start by themselves, and there's 1 or 2, 3 or 4 that just don't. And I think I had to assist feed 3, and now it's down to 2 because 1 started feeding. When I do this video on Friday, you know, it might be none, because I always offer first before assist feeding just to check the snake's not ready yet. If not, offer that assist feed, but I'll try and cover that on Friday. Anyway guys, that's enough from me. See you next time.